Welcome back to On the Line Talk with Catalina and Captain Spaulding. This is going to be episode 5 on the Peacock original John Wayne Gacy Devil in Disguise documentary. That there's only one season so far of this. It has 6 episodes. We are discussing the 5th one in this podcast. So,
We finally found a time where he references his age.
okay.
Said he was 19 in 1961.
Yeah, 61. And then he ran away. How do you run away at 19?
Yeah, I don't really see someone running away at 19. More like moving the fuck out.
But you gotta remember, in the 1960s, is a different time. Maybe.
Yeah, but I don't think that's changed much. Once a
I
kid
don't know.
turns 18, their parents are typically like, you know what? Time for you to start your own shit.
I mean, okay, so this brings up some interesting questions for me, I guess. He was 19 years old, and all the stuff that they're talking about, he never really touched. Did he actually graduate from high school?
I don't know.
I mean, he's smart. He was a smart man. But I was wondering if he ever graduated from high school, because not once did they ever touch on that one. But he did say when he ran away at 19, he cleaned a morgue and lived in there too. He lived in the morgue too, but he never slept with any of the bodies or did funny things with the bodies. He said now sleeping with maybe one close by wasn't a big deal for him. I'm like, really? Really? Like, I'd be scared that motherfucker would shoot the fuck up. Have you ever seen one do that?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, or breathe.
Yeah.
Breathe. I worked at a nursing home. That is so. I had one person that I had to prep to get ready, for the morgue to come get, or the funeral home to come get. And I'm like, me and my coworker, which just happened to be one of my friends at the time, we were like, I'm white and Hispanic, and she was black and white, but we were both mixed. So we both were on both sides of the fence. Like, the Mexican side of me is like, I'll touch a dead body, but it's not my relative. The white side of me is like, oh, hell nah. The black side of her was like, hell nah. And the white side we were all in the same mix of, we ain't touching this shit. It's like, no. And we turned her over. We went to go turn her over, and she made a sound. Without thinking, we both put her back down and shot out of the room to go get the nurse to double check that this woman, that they were sure she had passed. We were that scared and had not experienced that yet. So I don't see how he could have done that. No.
He did say, like, even with the Robert pierced whatever, he did not sleep in the same bed once he had killed Robert. But to be in the other room, or he might have been in the other room sleeping or something like that.
Not that I don't remember. Don't do that. Not that I know of. I was actually thinking, and I didn't see anything about that for that discussion, honestly. So I'm not really 100% sure. Stop for 1 second. But I did like what he said, that the dead will not bother you. It's the living that you need to worry about, basically.
Right.
And I like that. I like that quote.
Me too.
And the trial lasted 6 weeks?
Yeah, his whole murder trial lasted 6 weeks.
Which is crazy to me.
Which, I mean, as far as that goes, I don't think it needed to last that long, seeing as how the jury decided in 2 hours. He still claims that he was innocent and it was other people that were stacking bodies underneath his house.
I'm not gonna get into that one just yet, but yeah, he stays saying that, not all of them were his, I do like the fact that he ends up getting, after all these 6 weeks and deliberation and stuff like that, he is only charged with a couple of them as getting him the death sentence. Like, he wasn't convicted of...
He was convicted of all 22. Well, the 22 that they could find.
What I was trying to put together there was the fact that he wasn't given the death penalty for all 22. He was only given it for a certain few, but they didn't say which ones. That's what I was trying to.
I don't remember that part.
It's in there. It's in there. He wasn't convicted the death penalty for all of them, because I mean, after what 3 life sentences or 3 death penalties, what you gonna do after the first one? I mean, because that's different cases, which is weird how they do that. But what really gets me is the fact that Gacy, and yes, and what I really feel for the families, and because they thought the justice system should have been like, okay, you were convicted, death penalty, let's go. He's gonna die tomorrow. No, and it played out for what 10 years?
Yeah, they had to keep going through appeals.
10 years, because they have. See, what a lot of people don't understand is these kinds of people, when they get convicted of sentences to death, they have the right to appeal and to try to overturn and try to get new evidence and try to get a new case and trying to get that case thrown out. I mean, they have so many loopholes that they can do. It's freaking ridiculous. If they have hard-earned evidence, which they did in some cases of Gacy's, which I really would love to have probably mounds and mounds of paperwork over this case. I would love to see which ones they actually deemed as his. Because, I mean, in this episode 5, they uncover what we have been trying to see if they were going to tell us or not, that he had accomplices. He had to have accomplices. Like, there had to be more people to access to his home and more.
I mean, he said, he never straight out says, yes, these are my accomplices. He said, well, you might want to look into this guy.
And that guy.
Possibly look into this guy.
But while he's doing all these appeals, the state tries to sue Gacy for his paintings and making money while he's in prison.
Which is fucking crazy.
Which is crazy. And so he finds somebody to represent him. They said the only way we're going to do that, only way we'll represent you in this case is if we get to represent you in trying to get the death penalty taken off, to appeal your death penalty case. And I guess he said yes, because they pursued it, and he even had a number, or 1-900 number. The 900 number.
For people to call him so that he could explain how and why he was innocent.
Which is crazy. Like, so you could hear him say, I'm innocent. But all the money went to him for his commentary, and I guess, and stuff like that, which is, again, completely crazy. I mean, that would be pretty cool if the jail actually still had some of those recordings and would actually, like you could actually still call that 1-800 number or 900 number and hear his voice. You know how creepy that would be, but so cool? At the same time, I know that sounds so morbid, but that'd be so cool. It's just me. That case was dropped, though. That case was dropped. So, Gacy won it, technically.
Yeah, which, I mean, I don't even know who in the right mind would want to be like, oh, well, let's go back to his case and make him an innocent man after they found all these bodies under his house. I mean, if it was me, it would be on the opposite side saying, no, I mean, clearly, if he didn't do it, he had something to do with it. I mean, you don't just say, sure, buddy, hide the bodies under my house. In case someone gets caught, it'd just be me. It's gonna be okay.
I wouldn't really allow anybody to have access to my house when I'm not in town or not know that they're there. You can't tell me he didn't know what they were doing in his house. I'm so sorry, I got a tickle in my damn throat. But what gets me is when they start looking into trying to appeal this case, to get the death penalty overthrown, according to Gacy's anal record keeping, because his record keeping went from where he was on what date, what he was doing, what hotel, who he talked to, right down to the meal that he ate that day and what bed he was staying in, like basically what hotel room he was staying in and what time he left that hotel room to go wherever. I mean, his notes were meticulous. Like, when I say anal, he was definitely anal in more ways than one. For victims, but besides the point. But that alone, some of those men that were underneath his house, he wasn't even there for. According to his 16 of them, I think, 16 out of the 33, he was not there. And that's crazy. But he wouldn't give up his accomplices. He just kind of, hey, this might have been, if you look at this person over here. But nobody ever did. It's like, but that's only because cops were not really sure because he was a master manipulator. That was nice. And they didn't know which way to. They didn't know if he was bullshitting or telling them the truth.
Right.
Like, hey, take the focus off me because I didn't do shit. These people did. But come on now. You knew what the fuck was going on in your house. You could even I know things that are going on in my house. There's some things that I won't admit to because, I'm a mom and you just don't want to know that about your kids. And I completely get it from his mom's side of the, view. Like, I don't want this to be true. Even his mom said she did not want this to be true. She wished that she could just erase it and it never happened. And she still had her Gacy. She still had her John.
And his sister said the exact same thing.
Exactly. When people do these horrible crimes, they just really don't understand what they're doing to not only the victims and the victim's family, but to their own.
Right.
It could be even right down to a small, like a small theft. You just painted that picture of not only you, but what kind of family you might have come from. You could come from a rich ass family, have all the money in the world, and go out and steal a Porsche, and because of that, the hell's wrong with you? Or you can be the poorest person in the world, steal a stick of gum because you're starving, and people are going to label you different.
Not only you, but your family.
Exactly. And you got to really think about that. It's crazy. It's crazy that people like this do not think about that at all.
Or if they do think about it, they don't think so far into the future. They don't think they're going to get caught.
No, they really don't.
Especially when they first start. Because, they're thinking, well, if I do get caught, maybe my family won't even be around by then.
Or, yeah. And see, I can see where Gacy could have seen that happening.
Right. Well, all but his sister.
Unless he bumped her off, too.
Maybe he thought about it.
It's a possibility. But we also need to touch on the fact that he did put his mom into her own apartment after he had married his second wife and moved her mother and her two daughters in. And, he was also the maintenance man for his mother's apartment complex that she lived in, that he put her in. He was the maintenance man. And you'll see why that's important here in just a minute. But I just wanted to go back a couple of episodes, even though it is brought out more clearly in episode 5 that he was indeed the maintenance man, because we did have questions about that around about 2.
Right.
He was scheduled for May 10th, 1994, was when he was to be executed. And I believe that was carried out on 1994. But before that, he was supposed to be electrocuted. But at some point in the 90s, they did change that from electroshock, electrocution to lethal injection. And I'm not sure, because I tried to look it up, I'm not sure if Gacy was the first in Mississippi to actually be killed by lethal injection. But it kind of sounded that way.
That is definitely the way it sounded.
Because they had complications.
Exactly. That's what I was about to bring up.
So they said that he suffocated.
And everyone, including one of the victims' moms, was like, well, that was still too tame for what he deserved.
But then again, we really don't see somebody like us that we're doing reviews and watching these documentaries, and what little evidence that they're actually giving us. We know what he did to Jeff, but we don't know what he did to the ones that he killed.
Right.
How far he took that, what he got out of doing that. Criminal minds would have said, well, he's impotent, that's why he is doing this, or he gets sexual gratification from it. He gets off on doing this. We don't technically know that. We are not given enough evidence to be able to say, yeah, this is what got this man off.
Right.
He could have been one of those people where, because if you really go back and look at it, he got married twice. He had 2 kids. He had 2 stepdaughters.
Mm-hmm.
But both of them ended in divorce.
Right.
And every time, and they were swingers. Well, the first wife was. I don't really know so much about the second one because she doesn't really say much about their relationship.
No.
She does say a lot about the way the house smelled, but
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, and that my kids were right there. Okay, well, if a house smelled that bad, why the fuck stay there?
I don't know. I wouldn't.
I wouldn't either. But that being said, if you really look at it, he always gravitates to guys, boys, young boys. Let's put it that way.
Right.
He was technically, the way I see it, the first pedophile serial killer. He was the young boy serial killer. He did not care if they were gay, straight. He didn't care what their sexual preference was. All he knew is that he wanted that boy and he was going to get him.
Mm-hmm.
And he did.
And I mean, he did not go after one class of people. Well, I mean, I guess technically he did, working class, because most of them were ones that...
Driven, hard-driven, dream... He was a dream crusher. Yeah, he was a dream crusher.
Mm-hmm.
Those boys that are, young men that he took from our society, do you know what they could have possibly done had they not ever ran into John Gacy? Do you know how many more, good working men that would turn into good working family men to bring out more dreamers and hardworking men to our society? I know that sounds so bad in a time where, women are supposed to rule the world. No, we're not. We're supposed to help. That's it.
But I do like one thing that Robert Peace's brother said. He said something along the lines of, my brother always wanted to do something good that would have a positive impact, big impact on society, and he did that by what happened to him, because Gacy was caught.
Yeah, because without that boy had never met John Wayne Gacy. Can you imagine how many more bodies there would have been? Like in the last episode,
exactly how many there are now. As of episode 4, the count went up.
45? No, the count never went up. He said, how many more are there, John? 45 sounds like a good number. Really? Okay, exactly. And this documentary also really shows how much change in the work of law enforcement has dramatically changed. It's changed a lot as far as the tactics, how well they secure a crime scene, how much investigation goes into it, who was tied into what, who. Like today, if John Wayne Gacy would have been caught today with the same amount of numbers, and he goes, you need to go check out this guy, our detectives would have been on it.
That's because they're not just... Back then,
they didn't know what they
had all of the specific units in the police department. I think they had detectives and they had beat cops.
Very true. And the beat cops and the detectives really didn't get along with each other, and stepping on toes, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Dick Tracy. Never seen Dick Tracy? He was a dick. But yeah, I completely get that. And, it still happens today. You do have lazy law enforcement. You do have people who are like, well, we've got 33. We don't need any more. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
You need to find all the victims.
You
that way everyone gets
justice. Exactly. And that's exactly what I think. Do we want to go into that some of...
I mean, we can go ahead and...
recorded and sold. Oh, okay. Should we introduce that there was 4 people that could have been in on this, as John said?
Yes, because I believe shortly we'll be talking about the possible 5th person, technically.
Yeah. Well, he names 4. Well, he names 3 because he never really says himself.
Yeah, it's crazy because he says... What is it?
Yeah, there are 4 people possibly involved with the murders. There was Ross, Cram, and Philip. Cram. And is the 3rd one Philip?
Rossi, Cram, and Paskey.
Paskey is Philip, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and see, those are the first 3 that he names. But he never really named himself either. He never really names himself. Where's that page? He never really names himself, and then he says, John suspected that some of the Vicks were being recorded and sold on the black market for, what did they call those? Scat film? No, not scat. Not scat, that's something different. That's a whole different ballgame. We're not getting into that one. Snuff films. We're not getting into that one. Don't get into that one. Don't look that up. Things not to Google. Scat films, don't look that up. You will so regret that. Yeah, I think that's crazy. But Rossi and Krem both say that they had nothing to do with it. I don't think they really ever looked at Philip or now he does mention John. John was in there.
Norman.
John Norman. And John Norman and Paskey were actually involved in a
sex trafficking ring.
Yeah, that spanned from Chicago all the way to Dallas, Texas, like right in my backyard, which is weird. The reason why that didn't get any focus was because that was all.
Yeah, there was a lot of political.
There was a lot of political things involved with that, and that was back in 1977, and then Gacy gets arrested in 1978.
Right. And they didn't even attempt to put two and two together.
Exactly. And everybody's over here like, what? What the fuck? How could you not? What's going on there? Yeah, Rossi and them denied it. Philip was into a lot of drugs, and he got into trouble a lot. I think that if I'm correct, that's how he knew Norman.
Yes, he was in jail with him.
Yeah. And then, politics covered up the sex trafficking ring and put all of the focus onto Gacy, and that all these murders were every one of them had to do with John, but not knowing or not bringing up the fact that John knew Norman and knew Paskey. And Krem is the reason.
Was introduced to Gacy by Krem.
Yep, exactly. But Gacy did tell police that they needed to look into Norman, and they never did.
Right. But I mean, there was a lot of things that
again they didn't know.
The police were told they should look into, and they were just like, "Yeah, we're just not gonna do it."
Yeah, and what's funny is Norman. Well, we don't know if Norman was actually there. Did they say if Norman was there at the apartment complex? They just okay. So a lot of witnesses.
They never said that he was actually at Gacy's house. They said that Gacy said that it's a possibility.
That if he had a recent picture of him, he could probably tell them. But as it sits now, on that day that they interviewed him, he couldn't tell them because he didn't have a recent picture of him. What the hell is that gonna do? He changed between and now. Mm-hmm. You've been in jail for 10 plus. Mm-hmm. People change, honey. I mean, what the hell? Which is really weird, but how did they get onto the subject of the maintenance bill? During this whole thing, during this whole looking up and into and watching this documentary of John Gacy, me and you had a discussion. You and I had a discussion, didn't we? About about the fact that why would he put him underneath his house whenever he could have just done it in the backyard?
Either in the backyard or put him somewhere else besides
under the house.
Damn house. And now we don't know if there's evidence or not.
We're gonna discuss this. No, we're gonna discuss this. Yeah, we gotta have this discussion on the podcast. This is gonna be good. No, because I made the suggestion. Why didn't he just put him outside so it didn't smell? He would have never got caught.
I said that it was because he's got neighbors. It was in a crowded area, and I think he would have ended up getting caught sooner.
Yeah, but nobody ever seen these boys come in and out of his house, hardly ever, except for a couple of them, which was Kramer and Krem, whatever.
And Rossi.
Krem is a dirty little bastard. I know his ass is. There's something wrong with him. If you got the highest paid lawyer ever, but there's something going on there. But I mean, nobody ever seen these kids come in and out. I mean, he chloroformed a lot of them, knocked a lot of them out. He had to carry them inside, but he had a bad back, so somebody had to be with him to help him get him in. Somebody also had to help dig the holes underneath the crawl space in order to drag the bodies in there and put them underground.
We know who dug the holes.
But they're saying that they didn't have anything to do with it. They never drug any bodies down there. They didn't help with that. But there's 4 people.
The same thing?
I would say my ass, but I wouldn't have done it in the first damn place.
Right.
I'm not crawling each other, motherfucker. No, ain't happening. No, I would have done it out in the backyard. I would have done it at night. I would have had a brand new garden.
I would have not even done it near my property.
See, that would have been even better. But and back then you would have been able to get away with it. Nowadays you got cell phones, and they ping off of every near. I mean, that's where people get caught. Leave your motherfucking cell phone at the motherfucking house.
We're not telling y'all to go commit murder.
No, we're not.
Phones at the house.
Whoops, that's not what I meant. Leave your phones, your expensive ass shoes, and cover up your hair. Oh wait, this is not a murder how-to. Never mind. We're gonna skip that. We're gonna edit that part out. Okay, but anyways, yeah. But all that being said, it comes back to when Gacy was actually the maintenance man of his mother's apartment complex. Now, there were at least. He even joked with a neighbor. Like, dude, why are you out at 3 o'clock in the morning digging a hole?
That was not just a neighbor.
That was a friend.
That was a detective.
Was that a detective?
Yes.
Scandalous.
A detective stops him at 3 in the morning and says, "Why are you carrying a shovel around this late at night?" And he says, "Well, you know me. There's never enough time in the day."
Tell me that ain't some spotty ass shit. Yeah, but and the detective lived close. He lived right in across the street. Yeah, he lived across the street. He could see it. He could see it in the middle of the night. And he's like, yeah, okay. And they made a joke out of it, which is crazy. And also, there was a young boy too.
Yes, that was mowing the lawn of the.
Gacy actually recruited him to mow more to mow the lawns because he had become the neighborhood lawn care boy.
Yeah.
Which was his words, that sounds like a dirty kid porn that Gacy would have just loved. But come on, really?
I didn't put it that way.
They have pizza guys coming delivering a pizza to this woman that are brought next to her pool and like, hey, yeah, come visit me. Yeah, come on now. And especially since we were also earlier this episode, we were talking about, the smut films of not little boys. Okay, young teens, excuse me, because that boy was a young teenager. He did go to school. Middle school. Actually, that was middle school. So he was a little bit younger than teen. So that is a little scary.
Probably would have saved him.
Yeah, probably. Because Gacy had a set type age range. It seemed. They were all male. They were all between the ages of 16 to 20. They all either... Now, the hair color really didn't matter because it fluctuated between blondes and brunettes.
But a couple of redheads.
He had a couple of gingers in there. So your gingers, we didn't leave your ass out, neither did he. So that's on y'all. But the young boy that took care of the
lawn of Gacy's mom's apartments had to
also took out trash.
Oh yeah, also he took out trash. That's what he was doing whenever he first spotted Gacy doing something a little shady.
Well, it really wasn't shady. He was just trying to figure out why would you dig up around the perimeter of the backyard of the complex, of the apartment complex.
The whole 6 foot deep, 2 foot trench.
Yes.
Around it just to plant some little bitty bushes.
Exactly. And he remembered that he had to go around the other direction to go throw the trash out. That's what made it so noticeable for him. And, people are like, yeah, y'all should... telling Chicago PD, hey, look into this. See if there's bodies. Here's where they...
And then the boy gives them a description of the yard and tells them, look, there's no sense in digging in this one spot because the roots from this bush are way too deep and you're not going to find anything there. So they do a whole lot of investigations, ground penetrating stuff, trying to find out if there's bodies there.
They don't even do a lot of investigation. They get one team, one detective gets the green light to do his own investigation into this because it's been plaguing them so long. And he's like, okay, so what didn't they have back then that we do now to be able to find out if there's anything even remotely underneath here so we don't have to dig up so much backyard.
For no reason.
So that's when they get the ground penetrating stuff, technology.
And they end up finding a bunch of anomalies.
That they didn't say were bodies.
Yeah, they couldn't say specifically if they were bodies or not. They just found stuff in the ground that shouldn't be there.
Exactly.
So then they finally get a team to go out and dig. And they dig in the one spot that the boy said nothing was going to be there. They had everything marked off.
Yep, little box areas.
Where the boy said they needed to dig.
Oh, the whole backyard was blocked off. I mean, the whole backyard was covered in blocks of four. How did they put that? The 4 perimeters.
The 2x2 squares.
Yeah.
2 foot by 2 foot squares
that they needed to dig in to be able to find something.
And then they had a canopy over the one spot that the boy said, "Don't dig here. You're not going to find anything." And that's where they dug. And
didn't find shit.
They found a rusty pot or pan, and what else was it? Just a little bit of metal.
But no dead, no bodies, nothing there, nothing there.
So then they decided to call it off.
Oh, it's just a waste of time. We're not going to waste our time on this. It's a dead case. You're beating a dead horse. And I guarantee you probably would find more bodies there. I really wish they would actually. I wish they would actually go and actually do a real investigation on that property.
Mm-hmm.
I know Chicago. No, I'm thinking of Detroit. I'm thinking of New York. I think Chicago should actually do that. I think somebody should be like,
let's just go ahead and look.
I honestly wish that I had the money to go and do that myself. I wish I could be like, hey, I will pay you this amount of money if you just let me dig.
No. Just go get an apartment there and be like, I'm going to plant some pretty roses along the...
Yeah.
I'm going to dig a hole for a minute.
Yeah, that would go over really well.
I found some bones.
Right? That'll go really, really well with the, current residents. Yeah.
No.
But other than that, this episode, it does cover a lot, but it doesn't. It makes you really focus on, were we right at the beginning? Are they really ever gonna look more into this case? It makes you want to dig deeper into this case. It really does. And we have one more episode to go, so...
And I'm hoping that it tells a lot more about how many victims in total there really
confirmed are. Really are. And they're... I really hope they actually do their research and do what they're supposed to as cops and detectives and clean up their city.
Even more victims of Gacy. I don't think they're all going to be in Chicago.
I don't think so either. I think the detective's right.
A lot.
I think the detective's right. I think there will be more victims across
several states.
I really think it's going to be from Chicago, between Chicago to the Dallas area. Because Gacy, that was a wide stretch.
Right.
For whatever reason, you people love coming down to Texas. I ain't even joking. Y'all love tying your shit into Texas. But yeah, nobody...
Dallas or Houston.
Dallas or Houston. I'm so glad I'm not from Dallas or Houston. But, I visit there, but that don't mean I'm gonna go there and live. I'm not gonna live there. No. But anyways, everybody finds their way to Texas at some point either in their lifespan that has nothing to do with serial killing, or they find it during their serial killer days.
Besides Alaska, this is like the second biggest state?
Yeah, second biggest state that they come to. That anybody comes to, really, honestly.
Who wants to go to Alaska?
I don't, but exactly. We'll do a thing on Alaska at some point during our podcast, I promise. But on that note...
A random rant.
Random rant of Alaska. Why we dislike Alaska. On that note, we're going to go ahead and end this. We're going to end episode 5. And we're going to end on, you guys have a good day, a good afternoon, and a good evening. We hope you're close to your family and your loved ones, and you're keeping each other safe, and just enjoying your family's company, because you never know, especially with something like this, can put it into a big perspective. You never know when they're not going to be there no more, regardless of the circumstances. Keep your family close. And I'm going to let him end on the ending note there, Captain Spaulding.
Well, luckily 2 of the people that may have been accomplices of Gacy are no longer living. He died in 98, and Norman died in 2009. It's crazy to think about. That really wasn't that long ago.
I know.
2009? How did he get to live that long? With all the terrible shit that he may have done.
That we're not even sure if he even got convicted of anything.
Well, he definitely got convicted of something, because the picture that it shows on the 5th episode was his mugshot. So, we know he was convicted of something at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully, if he did all the things that they are saying that he did in the 5th episode, hopefully it was not a pleasant stay in prison.
I hope not. But again, you guys, have a great day, afternoon, and evening.